Coming up on Look Today, the heroin and opioid epidemic is on the rise in our community, and I've got details. And Lake George Village, the board approves funding to replace the wastewater treatment plant. More on that coming up. Plus, we've got a weekly look at the movies with Jackson Murphy, and it's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone and happy Friday. I'm J. Hood Jackson and this is Look Today. Well, in tonight's program, I sit down with Jessica Munson. She's a program and outreach coordinator for the National Museum of Dance in Saratoga. And she's here to talk about the museum's up-and-coming Move and Groove 5K this Sunday. I also sit down with Timothy Widener. He's the executive director of the Chapman Historical Museum in Glens Falls, and he's here to talk about new exhibits at the museum coming up this summer. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties, but first we've got these headline stories. Actually, before we get started, I want to apologize to our viewers. We did not broadcast Look Today last night. And just at that critical moment, it never happens at midnight or 2 in the morning, just before we went on air with Look Today last night, the computer glitched, and we couldn't figure out what the heck was going on until later. So I apologize for anybody that tuned in and Look Today wasn't there. Obviously, we fixed it because look who's back. All right. In our lead story, the heroin and opioid epidemic is on the rise in our upstate region. Now, the issue is in plain sight, and it affects everyone regardless of their economic status. Now, according to Dr. Tim Brooks of Saratoga Hospital, the hospital admits one patient a day who has used heroin. Now, this is compared to once or twice a month last year. Overdoses are becoming more fatal now, and it's more common for heroin to be cut with the more powerful and dangerous drug, fentanyl. Now, we spoke to Dr. Brooks about resources available to our community.
The community is quite aware of this, at least certain portions of the community who are trying to find options for treatment for individuals who are addicted to opiates and heroin. So there's been a large group pulled together, law enforcement, judges, transitional services, Sparks, Conifer Park, the emergency department, the hospital, to define ways that we can offer treatment more accessibly, more easily to people. Because one of the problems is once you rescue someone from a heroin overdose, they usually want to leave the emergency department right away. They're often not interested in help, but we need to be able to make it available to them.
Boy, building awareness for this problem is serious. You want to know something? In Saratoga County alone, there have been 6 recorded heroin overdoses this year, which was the total amount of overdoses for the whole year of 2015. Well, we also spoke to Mayor Joanne Yepsen about the effect this has on the community.
Well, it's affecting every city across the country now, and it's a true problem. We get people coming to city council meetings saying, help, because they've just known a friend's child who has died because of this problem. So we want to do everything we can as a city to work with the state legislation that's just been passed, to enforce it, and to ensure that everyone in the city gets the resources they need if indeed this problem occurs in their family. Because it's not just the individual that's taking the drugs or addicted, it's the entire family and community that should be concerned about this.
Yeah. There's much discussion about what leads to heroin and opioid abuse, and typically users begin with prescription opiates, and they abuse the recommended dosage. Now, when addiction sets in, heroin becomes the more affordable and accessible option. Now, drug addiction can creep into any part of society, especially afflicting those on the lower end of the economic spectrum. So we also spoke to Paul Feldman. He's the executive director of the Saratoga Springs Housing Authority about the use of heroin in public housing.
I work with one of the most vulnerable populations in the city, and unfortunately it's made its way into the housing authority as well, and we've seen what can happen. We actually lost somebody a year ago to an opiate overdose, so it's hitting home with the housing authority. I want to ensure that I'm providing a safe environment for our residents and their families. So we're looking, hopefully, that people are going to be able to get the treatment they need that have the issue, and we're going to be combating it from a law enforcement standpoint as much as we can as well.
Now, everybody here at Look Media is concerned about this topic. So we're going to be taking a closer look into the heroin and opioid epidemic in the next few weeks. We're going to have interviews with experts from different fields to get insights into this topic. Now, the epidemic, remember, affects everyone in the community, whether it's losing a loved one or becoming innocent victim of a drug-related crime. Now, the more knowledge we have, the more capable we are of combating the issue. So stay tuned. Now, switching from news to weather. Well, after a few days of rain on and off, the sun was out today in full force. Believe it or not, it was in the low 80s. So let's see how the weekend is shaping up. For a more detailed look at our weather, we're going to head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast. Back to the news. Well, here's an update on a story that we've been following. The Lake George Village Board approved a $17 million bond for a new wastewater treatment plant. Now, the village has been ordered by the DEC to remove nitrate emissions from the existing water plant, which, by the way, was built in the 1930s. Well, the village also applied for grant funding through various programs, including the Nonprofit Infrastructure Capital Investment Program. Well, we spoke to Tim Schutt. He's the chief operator of the Lake George Wastewater Treatment Plant.
It'll improve the quality of the water that we discharge into the ground here at the wastewater treatment plant significantly, especially nitrate.
In other news, well, Gavin Park in Wilton celebrated the grand opening of its new Splash Water Park. Now, the water park is a new kid-friendly addition to the Parks and Recreation in Wilton. It also offers easy access to handicapped kids. Now, the cost of the park, $400,000. Well, we spoke to Arthur Johnson. He's the Wilton Town Supervisor.
Today is a great day for the town of Wilton Park and Recreation. We have the grand opening and ribbon cutting of our new Gavin Park Splash Park. I think it's the first of its kind in the area, and it's going to be a great popular attraction here at Gavin Park.
All right, it's Friday, so that means it's time for a look at the movies with Jackson Murphy. Now, he's going to give us our weekly update on new movies at home and in the theater.
I'm Jackson Murphy, and it's time for this weekend's Look TV, Look at Movies. We defeated them 20 years ago, but can we do it again? Independence Day Resurgence is the sequel to one of the most popular sci-fi action films of all time. The aliens are back with a vengeance, as is Jeff Goldblum and President Bill Pullman. Independence Day Resurgence is rated PG-13. Set during the time of the Civil War, Free State of Jones stars Matthew McConaughey as a Mississippi farmer who opposes slavery and fights against the authorities in an effort to see that all men have the same rights. Inspired by true events, Free State of Jones is rated R. In The Shallows, Blake Lively plays a surfer on vacation in Australia who's trapped on a rock by a great white shark. I think she's gonna need a bigger rock. The Shallows is rated PG-13. New at home this week, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, the follow-up to the 2002 surprise comedy hit, and The Brothers Grimsby, the spy caper comedy with Sacha Baron Cohen and Mark Strong as long-lost brothers.
Oh my God.
Enjoy the movies, everybody. I'll see you back here next week. I'm Jackson Murphy.
Thanks very much, Jackson. Now remember, you can catch a look at the movies every Friday right here on Look TV. Up next, I sit down with Jessica Munson. She's the Program and Outreach Coordinator for the National Museum of Dance in Saratoga. She's here to talk about the museum's up-and-coming Move and Groove 5K. Plus, I also sit down with Tim Widener. He's the Executive Director of the Chapman Historical Museum in Glens Falls, and he's here to talk about the new exhibits at the museum this summer. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea, how about join us for an interview? Give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. Well, I got a couple of lookouts. First and foremost, it's Friday. So I have to thank Jessalyn and Drew, and Andrew, and Jack and Joel. And how about Norm? Where's Norm? Norm is our engineer. Norm's the kind of guy that runs between Saratoga and Crown Point before he eats dinner. So whatever triathlon you're on there, Norm, good luck. And the other one goes to Glens Falls. As many of you might know, my wife and I live in Glens Falls, and just over the past couple of weeks, between the Larak Festival and the Gay Pride event and parade and the premiere presentation of Island Song by the Adirondack Theater Festival, there's just so much going on in Glens Falls. This past Wednesday night was the premiere of that play, Island Song. It was at the Wood Theater. The place was packed, and the play was just brilliant. Like a contemporary play you might see in New York right now, along the lines of maybe a Hamilton or a Rent. Great songs, a cast of 5 people that just are so passionate about the characters they portray. And the storyline itself is just wonderful. It's about being a young adult in New York and trying to make it in some of the trials and tribulations. And Chad Rabinovitz, who's the producing director, quite a stand-up comedian, by the way, because he stood up before the audience before the performance and gave quite a little routine there. There's a lot of passion in this company. They're taking chances and challenges, and they're creating some very, very strong plays and performances. So please check out the Adirondack Theater Festival. The performances are at the Wood Theater in Glens Falls. All right, that's it. Tonight, we got Beyond the Headlines, a new one, and a bunch of episodes of Tracks in and out all over the weekend, plus the City Council meetings and the Warren County Board of Supervisor meeting. The weather's supposed to be terrific this weekend. Have a wonderful, safe weekend. We'll see you back here Monday night if we don't have any computer glitches for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everyone.